Hello and welcome to another episode of MS Talks. Today we dive deep into the world of sports, data, customer experience and engagement, and all things related to sports businesses. We're in conversation with someone who in just 3 short years has transformed the way his organization uses data and insights across all their decisions. With numerous accolades and awards under his sleeves and also his teams, we are delighted to have Matt Roberts, the Director of Research and Analytics at F1 with us today. Matt, been a while. The last time we met was when we didn't even have a glimpse of what 2020 would bring to us. How have you been?
Crazy year, yeah. No, all good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy year, but yeah, we are still good and healthy. So that's the most important.
At the end of the day, that is, that's the main thing that we all look forward to, right? Yeah, 2020 was a ride for F1. I mean, no fans, changes in schedules, some legendary tracks back as well. Fantastic races, some great achievements and awards under your sleeves. Congratulations to you on that. That's a lot of talking points right there. But I know that's a lot, but how would you like to summarize this for you, for your team, for F1 and for the sporting business overall?
Yeah, I think the sport has managed very well this year. I think we are the only global sport who has really managed to travel around the world in 2020. Many of our kind of competitors, particularly in motorsport, they've had to stay in one place for their whole series, whereas we've managed to move around. We've had the success of the esports series with the drivers earlier in the year.
Yep.
We've also had obviously another successful Netflix series which came out this year. So yeah, all in all, I think in terms of sort of F1 as a sport, it's been a very successful year despite the environment that we were given. Very disappointed, obviously, not to have fans this year, and like all sports businesses, that has affected us financially, and also. But I do feel that F1 doesn't impact us too much because I don't think it impacts the TV coverage. I think when you watch F1 on TV, you hear the sound of the cars. It's less about the sound.
And that's the beauty of the sport, yes.
Whereas football, other sports, maybe the crowd noise is more important. So yeah, I think it's been a mixed year, well, a good year for us, despite what went on. For my team personally, again, it's we've managed to, despite the environment we've been given, again, have a good year where we've won a number of awards for the projects we did in 2019 and early 2020. We've managed to do lots of work with our website, F1 Fan Voice, which is a fan community where we do lots of research and we ask fans lots of questions. We did lots of research around the 2020 calendar, 2021 calendar, around COVID and the return to racing next year for spectators, hopefully. So we've had limited resources this year because of budget cuts, but everyone's had their budget cut this year. That's normal. But we've still managed to really help the business understand how we need to drive the business forward and support our fans, because we are now very much a fan-centric business. Beforehand, we were much less of that back in the earlier days.
And I believe this is where your department is, comes in as well. Your department is at the heart of perhaps, one of the most innovative and analytical research units in sports. And the last time we met in Amsterdam, you spoke to me about your Wi-Fi and analytics and the other researches that you and your team were doing at that time. Did the pandemic shape up the research and analytics? Did anything change when it comes to your approach towards collecting fan data per se, or do you think you were already ready and prepared in a way that you did not really have to pivot into a new direction?
No, I think we were the only area it mainly impacted was our work around fans at races and fan experience, because obviously we couldn't do this piece of work; it was redundant. But yeah, you have to think F1 is not just about fans at races. Obviously, we have touch points. We have 500 million people watching on TV every year. You have about 60 million unique users a year across our web and app products. We've got over 34 million followers on social media. We've got our esports series. We've got all these touch points that we need to understand if what we're doing, are we doing it right?
Yeah.
So in terms of my team, our objective as a team to help drive fan engagement and understand what drives fan engagement was still very relevant this year, despite COVID. COVID was one small bit, the fan bit. Everything else, the sport, the show went on, and we had to manage everything else. And actually, we think this year TV numbers will be pretty good. In line with last year, if not slightly higher. The digital numbers have sailed through the roof. We've doubled our digital numbers and our social media numbers year on year. And obviously with yesterday, we had a record day yesterday because of
I
what
can
happened
imagine.
in the Bahrain Grand Prix. I mean, crazy. I think it was our best ever day for video views. 56% up on the previous best day. So F1 is still being consumed, whilst as consumption is still there across multi different touch points, we still need to do the research to understand, are we doing a good job of engaging with fans? So I'd say it had an impact, but not as big as maybe in other sports.
Well, I mean, as you mentioned about yesterday as well, my team, none of them watch F1. I've been watching F1 for the past 10, 12 years now. And when I walked in the office this morning, they themselves knew about the accident and they knew that he survived as well. So I can see where you're coming from as well, especially with the lockdowns, people having a little more spare time with them. I can imagine why, your digital engagement must have skyrocketed, unlike other years. It seems like a setup that you've had for a big period of time. I mean, it doesn't come off as a 3-year-old team that you've set up. With everything that you've done so far, with all the researches that you have undertaken already, with all the accolades that you've won, with the several decisions that have been taken because of the research and the insights that your team has provided to the business and to its partners. Must be a proud feeling. And I mean, what does your future look like? I mean, what's cooking for the future? If there's anything that you'd like to announce.
Well, I guess based on what you said, I mean, when I joined the team in 2017, the team didn't exist, so we were a brand new team. We had no data on F1. We knew nothing about fans.
Which is very surprising, right? Because F1 was always considered as
It shows sometimes if you look behind the scenes of some sports, there's and actually in my job at F1, I've noticed that the sports industry, particularly in the UK, big sports brands, I'm not going to name any brands, but you would expect them to have these big data research teams, but there's one person or two people and they're small units with small budgets. So sport is playing catch up on many other sectors. And we were very blessed and lucky at Formula One that we were given good budgets to spend on some really good projects. We were able to do a mixture of market research as well as sort of data analytics, as well as sensor analytics, as well as doing some neuroscience research, really to understand how fans behave and how can we improve that fan engagement. And I guess, we have won a few awards, but I think a lot of it is the F1 brand name does help, I think. But also the fact that we've had a good budget. If we had no budget, we wouldn't have won the award. So we've been very helped by our management and their insistence that research has a seat at the top table, and research is very important for the business. I think for the future, I think we definitely feel that the world is moving away from traditional research. So the surveys where people answer surveys, people have a bit of survey fatigue now. If I said to you, 76% of F1 fans think the Halo is amazing after yesterday.
Yeah.
This doesn't mean very much to some people, and people find it difficult to engage with surveys now. Whereas doing more innovative data analytics or research, like the brain work we did or the sensor technology work we did, really really cuts through with stakeholders, and they see this work and it looks innovative and it's
organic.
It really helps them answer their questions. So I think the world is moving in that direction. I think we're moving away from just surveys to using more technology and innovation to try and get to the answer that we need for the question that's being asked by the business. And I think we will do more of the same. I think at the moment, probably we are 70% research, 30% data. In 2 years' time, we'll probably be 50-50, and then in 10 years' time, we'll probably be 30-70 to more analytics than research. So we're going to, I think the world is moving more around data than necessarily research, because data, data is very much the buzzword of today at the moment.
As they say, data is the new oil, and I think everything that you just mentioned has highlighted that as well. I still have so many questions. Every time I've met you or I've spoken to you, our conversations have lasted at least for an hour, and I thank you every single time for the amount of time that you spend in explaining the things that go behind a sport that I love. But I can only ask you one more right now. I'll try to ask several points in this for you to summarize. But when it comes to fan experience, when it comes to digital technologies, when it comes to fan engagement, when it comes to community engagement, F1 is already, as you mentioned already, gathers a lot of data and researches. But when it comes to other sports businesses, when it comes to complementary and supplementary industries, be it stadiums, be it tournament organizers, circuits, city councils, airports, etc., etc. All of you can definitely learn and take insights from each other. What would be your advice, your opinion, your suggestions, or anything as this being your last answer for at least this talk? What would be your take for these people to take from this from after hearing this talk between us?
I would just say it's never too late to embark on a research and data strategy. I think some people feel like they've already made the decision, so it's too late to start thinking about what's the response to that. And I think that's really important. I think the other important thing is to not always just make a decision off the data. The data needs to inform a decision, but there are other factors involved. And I think some people see data and they think, data makes decisions. It doesn't. Data informs decisions, because sometimes you could have different data telling you the same thing, or different data telling the same data on the same thing telling you a different thing. So I think it's really important that you be a bit careful around the data you use, because as we've seen with COVID, actually, data can tell a million different stories. And I think sometimes it's really important to have multiple pieces of data so you can at least triangulate and check that all the data is pointing to the right direction. So, for example, with us, on many pieces of work we do, we'll look deep into the data, whether that be customer data or data from our biometrics, or data from our sensors or whatever. And then we'll also do a survey alongside to see the behavior of what people are saying as well. And then we'll tally up those two pieces of work together and check that they both are saying the same thing, because I think that's the important thing. I think sometimes just relying on one piece of data can be a bit dangerous, and I think just having as much evidence as possible at your fingertips is the most important thing. And data needs to inform decisions, not make decisions immediately. And I think,
and there's just so much to learn. We're going to look forward in years and hopefully realize how we could use the data better.
Exactly,
not just the public, but obviously sports businesses as a whole as well. And I truly believe that the pandemic has accelerated the importance of data, the importance of, as you mentioned as well, not just consuming data and collecting data, but of rightfully analyzing it and eventually taking those decisions as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Just 2 more races now, and hopefully exciting year ahead.
Hopefully 2021 will be as close as back to normal as possible.
You're coming to Saudi as well now, so I think
we will be in Saudi next November. Hopefully I'll be there.
Hopefully I'll see you, if not there, at least back in Dubai again.
Fantastic. Yeah,
well, thank you so much, Matt. Thank you. Always a pleasure speaking to you. Hopefully we'll do one more of these episodes in the future.
No worries.
Thank you for your time.
Always welcome. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.